Alright, what is up guys? Today I'm going to be doing something I didn't expect to be doing. First thing you'll notice is I'm in the Eclipse again. I got something very good for the car from a friend of mine for free, and that something is an ECU. Now, this ECU came out of a Dodge Neon, a 95 Neon, and it was an automatic. So I'm going to probably have to jump the solenoid to make it start, because the ECU is going to be looking for the park signal from the automatic instead of a clutch safety signal. So I might have to jump that, but I'm going to plug this thing in, see if the car's problems are solved or if it develops a new set of problems but the old ones go away. And if that happens, hopefully this one works perfectly. When I did a little bit of research, and apparently you can run the automatic ECU on a 5-speed. You just have to do a little bit of trickery with the starter. We're gonna go plug this thing in and see if the car runs with it. Alright, so you can see here I actually hardwired the ignition a while back to see if it was just cutting power, and it's not. It's connected directly to battery power, and it still cuts out and tries to die. It did on the way here, in fact, so I'm gonna end up wiring it back into these wires, which is what that was, and go back to how it was stock. But at least now I've tried it and I know. The ECU sits right here. It's just an 8mm bolt, holds it in right there, and I've got these 2 bolts here holding the mount in, and then that self driller which also holds the fan relay in. Take that out, pull the old ECU out, put the new ECU in, and see what happens. Alright, the new ECU is in. Let's see if we can start it. Oh, it's running. Got a battery light. Curious to see what happens if I plug the idle air control valve back in. The idle's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm going to shut it back down for a second. Alright, so I've restarted it and I'm letting it run again, and my idle is actually going down. Like, the idle air control valve is working, which is amazing. Hopefully this ECU is good. I do have a battery light on. I'm just gonna let this thing run for a little bit, let it figure itself out, and we will see what happens. Alright, it gets a little bit angry when you turn the fans on, but after a while it figures out what to do. I still have a battery light, but that could be related to another ECU issue. On the plus side, it sat and idled long enough to get up to temp where I had to turn the fans on, which means that it's actually maybe fixed, and the idle is sitting right at about 500-600 RPM. It's running kind of rough, but there's still a lot of unburned fuel everywhere inside of this thing. So I'm just going to let it continue running. I'm putting air in the tires because they're all flat. You can see smoke coming out of it. Once I get some air in the tires, I'm going to take it out and drive it, and we will see if I can get it to quit blowing so much smoke out. Alright, so this video is going to be really nice and short, but the ECU from the automatic Dodge Neon did work, and the car didn't try to shut itself off or cut the ignition one time while I was driving it. I'm getting a lot of smoke coming from it. Some of it is probably unburned fuel still, and it also smells like oil, so hopefully I didn't burn the rings up with how badly it was running rich and flooding itself. The oil smells, I did test it, and it smells a little bit like fuel, so there's probably some fuel mixed in with the oil, and that could be causing a little bit to slip past the rings as it's running, and it might clean itself out if it gets driven a little bit, but it needs an oil change and everything. I don't want to drive it, so I'm going to take it back out, swap it back with the Golf, and drive the Golf some more. But Now at least I can not have to worry about it shutting off. Hopefully, still can't plug the idle air control valve in. It's idling normal, like the idle dropped all the way down to 500-600 where it's supposed to when it's warm. But when you touch the throttle, it does the same thing where it idles way up, and I'm not sure what's causing that or why it's doing that, but that's the only issue it has now. So at least I can run and drive the car, which means I can get some other things done to this that I want to get done. Car runs and drives, making a lot of smoke for some reason, probably needs an oil change. With this ECU, the car no longer shuts itself off, or at least it didn't in all the time that I ran around and drove it. And the idle issues are sort of fixed. It doesn't have a high idle anymore. I want to make like a bezel or a plate or something out of steel that I can mount the radio in and put some gauges down here. And I want to do a couple other little things. I want to get my new hatch, which is in the shed, put on this car. I want to put the OZ edition gauges in here so that hopefully the backlights will work properly, and do a few other little things. I ordered a center tail light for the car, where it's not a light, but it's the center piece for the light assembly. So I'll have all stock tail lights on it again. Well, that's going to be it for this video, guys. New ECU, car's drivable again, runs better. Not everything is solved yet. Hopefully the engine isn't bad if it continues to blow smoke after an oil change and just after being driven for a while. I'm going to do a compression test on it and see if the rings are fucked. If the rings are fucked, well then we're going to have to look for a new 420A. So anyway guys, that's it for this video. Make sure that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.